We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And we're back on Liberty Nation Radio. I remain your host, Mark Angelides, and we continue to be joined by Liberty Nation's chief political correspondent, Graham J. Noble. Now, we're continuing our conversation on what's taking place within the Beltway at the moment. We were just talking about how Lindy Lear, former Democrat bundler, how she discovered that the polling really wasn't there for Joe Biden or Kamala Harris in the run-up to the November election. But what I want to check out, Graham, is I want your thoughts on the faces have changed, but the system's still in operation, right? The people who are essentially the workers behind the scenes of the Democratic Party, they're still in place. It's just the faces at the top that are changing, isn't it?
Right, and it seems to be that seems to be the case, and it's kind of funny. There's an interesting parallel, I think, here with the federal government writ large, where you've got this situation where the deep state, the administrative state, the bureaucratic state, whatever you want to call it, it's mostly kind of left wing people, in some cases fairly extreme kind of progressives. They are buried into the administrative state, and therefore to make real, to make a real definite change in the way the federal government operates is difficult, because you've got all these people buried inside it, and they're still pursuing the same kind of agendas. And within the Democratic Party, it's the same thing now. You've basically got the party's been very much kind of overtaken by, I almost want to use the word infested, by hardcore progressives, and they are still pursuing their kind of crazy ideological ideas, and that's the thing. How do you turn that ship around? It would take, to me, for the Democratic Party to save itself, they've got to stumble upon some extremely strong-willed figure.
An almost Trumpian figure, one might.
And indeed, they need their own version of Trump, really, to come in and say, no, we're not going down this road anymore, because this path just leads to destruction in the political wilderness. We got to turn it all around. But, who have they got like that? It's almost as if Gavin Newsom is trying to set himself up as that, where he recently came out and said, well, I think it's unfair for men to compete in women's sports, which, of course, is anathema nowadays to the modern Democratic Party.
Sure.
But he almost looks like he's trying to set himself up. But I don't really believe he's that character. I believe that he's still as far left as he always was.
Yeah, well, to me it seems, and obviously I don't know the man personally, Governor Gavin Newsom, but it seems to me that he's very much a politically expedient politician. If this is the thing that will best serve his political agenda, ambitions, aims, then that's the bandwagon that he'll join with, which is why he so easily flipped on that position about trans women, trans sports thing. I don't even know how to talk about it without sounding like an idiot. But yeah, he brought out his podcast, didn't he? So he's launched his own podcast, which is not a new thing. Remember, Ted Cruz did his own podcast as well. I don't know if that's still going, but I did enjoy the first few episodes of that. But he did something very interesting, which was to bring on Charlie Kirk, who's the Turning Point USA founder, a very, very sharp mind, and very entertaining to watch as well, to have a more of a combative interview. And so I was watching the numbers on this over the days, and I'm sure you find this interesting, Graham, is that after 16 to 17 hours, there were about 25,000 YouTube views on Gavin Newsom's This Is Gavin Newsom videocast. After 14 hours, because it seems to me that Charlie Kirk, he left that studio, went and recorded a 12-minute bit about, I've just done this thing with Gavin Newsom. That had almost 500,000 views in the same time period. So it seems to me that, and this was my summation, I might have this wrong, I'd like your opinion, that the people who watched it on Gavin Newsom's thing are people who are interested in seeing Charlie Kirk debate or speak to Gavin Newsom because they knew what Charlie Kirk was capable of. And the people who would normally support Gavin Newsom didn't want to watch it because they believe that that he was platforming somebody who they consider far right. What's your take?
Yeah, no, I agree. Generally speaking, with that, Mark, I would say that in my view, the people who support Gavin Newsom but chose not to watch that podcast or that at least even that segment of the podcast, I think. Maybe some of them are like, well, you're giving a platform to Charlie Kirk, who's just another, right-wing fascist, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, so I think a lot of the people who are Gavin Newsom supporters but didn't want to watch Charlie Kirk, they simply didn't want to watch it because they don't want to hear what Charlie Kirk's got to say. They don't want to expose themselves to those points of view. They just find it incredibly uncomfortable to listen to any conservative pundit, putting forth those kind of views.
So I wonder if Gavin Newsom, for all of his California gubernatorial fame, and of course, national fame as well, he was very supportive of Joe Biden up until he wasn't. And then, of course, Kamala Harris, and he didn't enter the race wisely. He didn't enter the race against, not that they were offering him a position because, of course, no primaries needed when you've got Kamala Harris at the helm, right? But he very wisely played his cards close to his chest. But I don't think that there's enough appeal for a Californication of the United States to get him to the White House. I don't think there's that much. I don't think there's enough. I think you're coasting around Kamala Harris style things, especially with the swing states, because the swing states don't want wildly progressive. That's why they went for Trump in this most recent election. And Gavin Newsom, from California, same as Kamala Harris, California politics, that's offering voters the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And, you've got the whole basically the whole interior of the country with the exception of a few scattered cities and a few scattered counties. The entire interior of the country is red, it's Republican red. And they're not going to go for, a California Democrat. And the thing is, I believe that I'm not sure Gavin Newsom would even be that popular in the north, in the blue northeast, in New York and places like this. I don't think they particularly want sure, they want a Democrat, but they don't want a California Democrat.
That's a very, very interesting point. It's theater people versus movie people, right? It's Broadway versus Hollywood. Gavin Newsom's very Hollywood. Graham J. Noble, thank you ever so much for being with us today. I really appreciate your time and your wit and your wisdom. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, Mark. Thanks. Bye.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.